For 10 years, they bled for her. Thousands of men, 2 nations, one face. But what if the face on the walls of Troy was never really there? This is the version they leave out of the films. Not a fringe theory invented yesterday. A tradition that runs through 3 of ancient Greece's most serious minds. A poet who was struck blind for slandering her. A playwright who put her safe in Egypt while the war raged on without her. And a historian who said he heard it from the priests of Egypt themselves. Their claim is simple and devastating. Helen never reached Troy. The woman behind those famous walls was a phantom, and the greatest war in myth was fought over an illusion. By the end, I'll give you the honest verdict, what the original Greeks actually said versus what Rome and Hollywood later sold you. Start where the trail begins, around 600 before the Common Era, with a lyric poet named Stesichorus. The story goes that he wrote a poem blaming Helen for the war, and was struck blind for the insult. Realizing his error, he composed something almost unheard of in Greek poetry, a Palinode, a formal taking back, and his recantation survives in fragments quoted centuries later by Plato himself. Listen to what he wrote. That story is not true. You never went in the well-benched ships. You never reached the towers of Troy. His sight, the legend says, was restored. Whether the blindness is real or a poet's metaphor, the literary fact is solid. Stesichorus is our earliest named source for a Helen who stayed behind, and an image, a likeness, that sailed in her place. 80 years later, the idea reaches the Athenian stage. In 412, before the Common Era, the playwright Euripides builds an entire tragedy on it, simply called Helen. His version is bold. The goddess Hera, cheated of victory, refuses to let Paris enjoy his prize. So she fashions an eidolon, a breathing phantom shaped from cloud and air, identical to Helen in every line of her face. Paris carries the phantom to Troy, convinced he holds the real woman. The Greeks chase it, the Trojans die for it, and the whole time the true Helen has been spirited away to Egypt, to the household of the dead king Proteus, where she waits in agony, faithful, untouched, and blamed by the entire world for a crime she never committed. Euripides does something the war poets never dared. He lets us sit inside Helen's grief. She clings to a tomb for sanctuary, while a new Egyptian king, Theoclymenus, hunts her for a bride. She has heard that Troy has fallen, that countless men are dead over her, and she cries out that her name has become a curse across the earth for a sin that was only ever a shadow. Then a shipwrecked stranger washes ashore. It is Menelaus, her husband, ragged from the long voyage home. And here is the gut punch of the play. He has the phantom Helen hidden in a cave by the sea, and now stands face to face with a second, identical Helen who swears she is the only true one. Which wife is real? The illusion answers for him. The phantom dissolves into thin air, announcing it was never flesh at all. The war, it confesses, was waged for nothing. Stop and feel the size of that. If the phantom is real, then every death at Troy, every funeral, every widow, Hector dragged in the dust, Achilles' rage, all of it was spent on a thing made of cloud. That is the most subversive idea in all of Greek myth, that the war that founded Western literature may have been fought over nothing. If a story this dangerous is worth your time, do one thing. Follow the channel. Every myth, the honest version, no bait, because the next source is the strangest of all. It doesn't come from a poet at all. It comes from a historian, and he says he has proof. Around 440 before the Common Era, Herodotus, the man we call the father of history, visits Egypt and questions the priests at Memphis, and they tell him a Helen story, older than Euripides' play. In their account, there is no phantom and no goddess. Instead, when Paris carries Helen off, storms blow his ship to Egypt. The local ruler, here also named Proteus, is appalled that a guest has stolen another man's wife and treasure. So he keeps Helen and the stolen goods safe in Egypt and sends Paris away in disgrace. Helen, the priests insist, sat out the entire war on Egyptian soil. And then Herodotus makes his historian's argument. He reasons that if the Trojans had truly held Helen, they would surely have handed her back rather than watch their city burn for her. No king is that mad. The fact that they never produced her, he concludes, proves they never had her. To Herodotus, the phantom was unnecessary. The simplest truth was enough. She was always in Egypt. So why didn't you grow up with this version? Because Homer got there first, and Homer got there loudest. In the Iliad and the Odyssey, Helen is unmistakably inside Troy. We watch her on the walls, naming the Greek captains for old King Priam. We find her later back home in Sparta, pouring wine for guests. Homer's Helen is flesh, present, complicated, and devastatingly real. Curiously, even Homer drops a hint of the other tradition. In the Odyssey, Helen and Menelaus describe a stop in Egypt where she was given rare drugs and gifts. The Egyptian thread was always tangled into the legend, but the phantom never made it into the blockbuster. Homer's gravity simply pulled the whole tradition into orbit around a Helen who was truly there. So, here is the honest verdict. There was never one official story. Within Greece itself, two traditions ran side by side. Homer's mainstream Helen, physically at Troy, and a genuinely ancient minority tradition carried by Stesichorus, dramatized by Euripides, and rationalized by Herodotus that placed her in Egypt the entire time, with only a phantom or nothing at all at Troy. The phantom idea is authentically Greek and genuinely old. What it never was is fringe invented by Rome or by modern writers. If anything, the later Roman poets like Virgil leaned the other way, hardening Helen into the guilty woman inside the walls. And modern film inherited that guilt. The she was in Egypt. Helen isn't a modern twist on the myth. It's one of the oldest answers the Greeks themselves gave to a question that clearly haunted them. How could so many die for one woman, unless somehow she was never really there? She was never. And maybe that is the real reason the phantom survived for 2,500 years. The Greeks understood something we still flinch from, that men will die in their thousands for an image, a name, a story they never stop to verify. Euripides has the phantom confess, as it dissolves, that the gods made it to thin out the swarm of mortals on the earth, a war over a cloud. The most honest thing the myth ever said about war may be that the prize was never there to begin with. If a phantom could fight a war, then ask the harder question, who built her? In every Egyptian version, the man who guards the real Helen is a king named Proteus. But Homer's Proteus is no king at all. He is a shape-shifting sea god who must be wrestled through fire, flood, and beast before he tells the truth. Same name, two completely different beings. Next time, Proteus, the old man of the sea who could become anything, and why even the gods were afraid to ask him a question. Follow now so you don't miss it.